Hello, this is Jordan, and this video is being recorded on Tuesday afternoon, March 15th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to have a lot of great content coming in the weeks ahead. Thank you. And in this video, I am going to discuss gold and silver and their trajectory based on long-term resistance levels. And in addition, I'm also going to discuss their performance around the context of gold correcting after reaching its all-time high. So I'm building upon the editorial that I wrote yesterday. You can find that at TheDailyGold.com, titled "Gold Has Done This Only Twice." So I'm following up on that. And the first thing I want to discuss, and so we have the gold chart here and the silver chart here, so I'm going to flip back and forth a little bit. And the difference between the two is after this pullback and gold makes its next move higher, it has no resistance as far as past resistance. So it's next move, it's going to break to a new all-time high for the first time in, if we're looking at the base, the first time in 11 years. True, it did make a new all-time high in 2020, but it immediately corrected, so it didn't sustain that. So this is going to be the first time, in my opinion, it breaks to a new all-time high and it sustains it, first time in 11 years since 2011. And so that's very significant. If you're looking at the chart, there's no overhead resistance. Something that I haven't mentioned going back to the three breakouts. Breakout number one in the early 70s and this coming breakout, the difference between those two and breakout number two is you're breaking to a new all-time high. So when you break to a new all-time high for the first time in a long time, especially after a couple tests, that is really significant. At that point, the market has built up really strong momentum and it can really fly from there. So gold is in position to do really well, obviously, master of the obvious. But the point I'm getting at here is I don't think silver is going to immediately outperform gold. The question will be, when does that happen? When can we expect that? And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But so the difference, here's silver. Silver still has the stiff resistance right around 29.30. If you're looking at a quarterly chart, I think it's 28. So 28 to 30, there's still very stiff resistance for silver on all time frames. And then you have $50 on the daily chart. If you're looking at the quarterly and monthly, I think it's 35 to 37. So gold basically, has only a little bit of resistance to get through. It's just after this correction, it's going to rise. No resistance, new all-time high. Silver has to spend a lot of time chewing through resistance on its way to breaking 50. Hence, moving forward, at least for a couple months, I wouldn't expect silver to dramatically outperform gold. Maybe they move up together the same percent, or silver outperforms by a tiny bit. But that's basically the point I'm trying to get, is that I like the setup of gold a lot more than silver if we're looking out over the months ahead or the next year. Now, eventually, when silver breaks 50, gold will be trading at a much higher level, probably around or close to 3,000. And then at that point, you can say, well, silver just broke a 50-year or 43-year bait, whatever it was. At that point, the setup for silver would probably be better depending on where the gold-silver ratio is. So I think at that point, and also I think looking out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I think silver will outperform gold during the next expansion. But as far as this move moving forward, I don't think silver is going to outperform that much based on the setups here. Now, let's look at history. So the two times that gold corrected after rallying back to a new all-time high, of course, it happened in 1978 and 2009. And here's 1978. And so the blue line is an approximation of this is where we could be now if we're following this trajectory. Gold's pulling back. It's had this correction. I think it came down to the top of the gap in 1908 today. Maybe it tests 1900. Maybe it tests 1890. I don't know. But as far as the price decline, I think we've seen most of it. We're probably going to consolidate bullishly, or at least that's my thinking, over the next couple of months. But, here, gold had after the little pullback in early 78, broke out, had the big move higher. Then it had the 20% snapback to resistance. And after that, then it really flew. It was really flying after that point. And so when did silver really start to outperform gold? That was when gold began to retest its breakout. So that was about 6 months after the point where we might be right now. So 6 months after the point, that's when silver began to really outperform gold. Now, history with markets, it's always different. Everything is not the same. They say history rhymes. So the other example is 2009. And so the first blue vertical line could be an approximation of where we might be right now. And so gold pulled back. It had a very bullish consolidation that lasted about 4 months or so. Yeah, it lasted about 4 months. The second blue era, or the third one in July. To me, that's when it ended. And from there, it had a big move higher. And then it was up and away. Although it did have a bit of a retest in late 2009, early 2010. Wasn't a perfect retest, but that was enough of a retest. And so if we're looking at when did silver begin to outperform, well, silver's underperformance of gold really stopped at the first black line there. You can see in July 2009. So when gold began its move to break out for good, that's when silver started to outperform. And at least for most of them, if you look at that move in percentage terms, from that point to the end of 2009, the next 5-6 months or so, silver did really outperform when gold broke out. However, after that point, silver had a bigger correction. And so the second black line there in June 2010, that to me is when that's when it really began to outperform for good in a strong fashion. Of course, we know it eventually would make it all the way up to 50 very briefly. But so the point is, let's be mindful of the fact that, gold has a cleaner setup than silver moving forward with respect to very limited overhead resistance. So we shouldn't expect silver to begin to really outperform right away. In this example, given where the first blue line is, April, July, that's, what is that, that's 3+ months from now. And if we go back here, when did silver really begin to outperform? That was about 6 months. So those are my thoughts on when silver could outperform. If gold makes a huge move, when this correction's over, if gold makes a big move, that big breakout above 2100, I think at that point, silver, at least in percentage terms, should really start to outperform gold. But this is just a little history, just letting you know my thoughts on silver. And, I'm not saying I prefer gold over silver. There's a lot of nuance here. Gold's going to go to 3,000, I think, in the next 12, 18 months. And, silver will outperform for the duration of that move. But, based on my analysis here, this is just pointing out that, perhaps it could be 3, 4, 5, 6 months before silver starts to outperform gold. So if you own lots of silver, you can't worry or, get concerned if you see silver underperform for a few months. This is just what happens. Ultimately, silver will outperform gold. If you're not a subscriber, head on over to TheDailyGold.com. Subscribe. You can email me. I've been talking about my 3 best silver stocks for the next 2 to 3 years. I think all 3 have a chance to be 10 baggers. They've been coming back, correcting in the last week or so. So great buys. And let me know what you think in the comments. And thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in the next video.